We have an active shooter.
Let's go ahead and declare this a mass casualty.
Welcome to Active Shooter, a podcast that covers the whys, the hows, and the aftermath of active shooter and mass casualty events.
They have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
I've been shot. 16910 means we got shots fired at 4:15 a.m. Route 291. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Active Shooter, a podcast that may contain adult themes, explicit language, and graphic depictions of violence. Portions of this show may be traumatic for those under 18. Listener discretion is advised.
In a matter of seconds, a country music festival turned tragic, a storm of gunfire raining down upon an innocent crowd.
I know, but I have to stay on. He was shooting everybody, and there was dead people everywhere, and I don't even know what was happening. He was just shooting randomly.
It started at 10:08 p.m., the first reports of shots fired as singer Jason Aldean performed. Initially, there was confusion, many wondering if the sounds were part of the show.
It's fireworks! It's fireworks! Stop! It's fireworks!
But they quickly realized what was happening.
We have an active shooter inside the fairgrounds.
A gunman perched on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort had opened fire on 22,000 concert goers.
We got about 40 to 50 people were pinned against this wall.
All of them scrambling to find shelter wherever they could.
Boom, and then one after the other, and we were laying down on the floor. I didn't know to get up, to run, to stay, to duck.
The shooting at the Route 91 festival in Las Vegas, Nevada, is considered the deadliest in United States history. A lone gunman murdered 58 people and injured nearly 900 others in 10 minutes. It only took the span of about 2 country songs to cause the most chaotic, bloodiest, and deadliest shooting the country had ever seen. Perhaps only an actual war could present a more traumatic and unimaginable sight. 22,000 people gathered to enjoy their favorite country artists, the company of other festival goers, and, of course, to drink beer at the 3-day music festival. The festival ran from September 29th through October 1st, 2017, and each of the 3 days was chock full of musical performances by a variety of country artists. On the third and final day of the event, country music star Jason Aldean was on the stage, performing for the tens of thousands of fans who were singing, cheering, and swaying to the music. They could have never been prepared for the shocking and horrific attack that was unleashed on them by a real-life monster. Today's case is dedicated to the lives and memories of the hundreds of injured survivors and the 58 deceased victims. We would like to note that this case will differ from our typical presentation of each shooting. Due to the sheer volume of victims, as well as other important details and information, the episode will be split into 2 parts. The first part will detail the weeks leading up to the shooting, the actual shooting, and the aftermath. The second part will cover the victims and the shooter's background. Active Shooter the Podcast is a High Five Holly production, and I'm your host, JT. If you've listened to our prior episodes, you know that the Active Shooter Podcast team has taken the No Notoriety Pledge, and we will not be sharing the real name of the shooters that we cover. We will be giving the shooters a pseudonym and refer to them by that name throughout the episode. This will help in clearing up any confusion in the story, while remaining true to our pledge and not naming the shooter by their actual name. We will refer to today's shooter as Eric. We will also assign an alias to the shooter's girlfriend, who will be mentioned periodically in the episode. The shooter's girlfriend will be referred to as Ellen. Before we get into the shooting, we need to go back mid-September to fully illustrate the methodical way the shooter plotted and executed the deaths of 58 people, while simultaneously injuring hundreds of others. On September 17th, 64-year-old Eric checked into the Ogden in Las Vegas. The Ogden is a 21-story luxury condominium tower that is located on Las Vegas Boulevard. The condos are privately owned, but rented out through a leasing agency. Eric was booked there until September 28th and stayed in a total of 3 different condos throughout the building, each of which was booked through Airbnb. During his stay, Eric made many trips, leaving the condo complex for extended periods of time. He also moved large amounts of luggage into the different condos he stayed in. Eric took breaks from transporting luggage from his vehicle by stopping to gamble for short periods of time, choosing the casinos in downtown Las Vegas rather than the Strip. Beyond his movements at the Ogden, Eric took frequent trips to Mesquite, Nevada, a small city about an hour and a half outside of Vegas, and coincidentally, where Eric had a house. One of the various trips he took was on September 19th, when Eric rented a car and drove to Phoenix to see a man named Douglas Haig. There, Eric purchased 600 rounds of .308 armor-piercing incendiary ammunition before turning around and heading straight back to Las Vegas. The following day, he removed several items from the rental car and placed them into his personal vehicle, a Chrysler Pacifica. He returned the rental and hopped into a rideshare back to Ogden. On September 25th, he checked into Mandalay Bay and was assigned room 32-135, which represents room 135 on the 32nd floor. The hotel consisted of 43 floors in all and is a stunning, massive structure. Despite the reservation at this hotel, he still had a condo booked for another 3 days. Eric carried several pieces of luggage into Mandalay Bay, so much so that he met a bellman who assisted in transporting everything to his room. As Eric met the bellman, he asked if they could travel to his room in the service elevator rather than the guest one. As this is not an unusual request, the bellman obliged, and together they rode in the service elevator up to Eric's room, carrying 1 rolling bag and 4 other suitcases, which sat atop a luggage cart. During his stay at Mandalay Bay, Eric continued to make frequent trips in and out of the hotel, including another trip to Mesquite on September 26th. He was gone for several hours conducting business, including transferring $50,000 to the Philippines via wire transfer. On September 27th, he gambled for several hours at the Mandalay Bay Casino, and on the 28th, he left the property to purchase a .308 bolt-action rifle before heading to Mesquite, where he deposited $14,000 in a Wells Fargo account. He then wire transferred another $50,000 into an offshore account in the Philippines. Before heading back to the hotel, Eric stopped at an unofficial gun range in Mesquite, where he shot several rounds. When he got back to the hotel, Eric carried more baggage up to his room. In fact, between September 25th and October 1st, Eric was seen carrying luggage into his room at Mandalay Bay on many different occasions. It may sound like something someone should have noticed, a red flag of sorts. But this was Las Vegas. Nothing was really out of the ordinary here. On September 29th, Eric checked into room 32-134, which is the room adjoined by a door to room 32135. Each room wasn't booked under Eric's name, though. He booked 32135 under his own, and 32134 under his girlfriend Ellen's name. He also requested that the front desk have a second refrigerator delivered to his room, and also asked for housekeeping to only change his linens and replace each trash in the adjoining rooms. Eric further requested that his room was not to be vacuumed, and the food service cart was to remain in his room. He had additional demands that included the staff notifying him when they finished taking out trash and changing linens. He stayed in the room, clicking away on his laptop as they cleaned. Again, this being Vegas, it may have seemed strange, but probably not a serious red flag to hotel staff. On September 30th, Eric once again drove to Mesquite, not once, but twice. Each time he left, he placed the Do Not Disturb cards on both rooms, 32134 and 32135. In between trips, Eric gambled a little and continued to carry several additional pieces of luggage up to his room by way of the guest elevator. Hotel staff asked him if he'd like his room cleaned on a couple of occasions, but each time he declined the offer. On October 1st, Eric did more of the same. He carried suitcases up to his room, gambled, and ordered room service, while declining housekeeping each time. In total, Eric carried 22 pieces of luggage up to his room over the course of 5 days. The evening of October 1st, 2017, was hot, with temperatures clocking in at almost 90 degrees. Festival goers at the Route 91 Harvest Festival didn't mind the heat. They had spent the last 3 days enjoying the country music festival, and they were on the last day, last act, and coming upon the last songs. At 9:40 p.m., Jason Aldean took to the stage at the Las Vegas Village area, which may be interchangeably referred to as the Village area. Back inside of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, which overlooked the Village area on the northeast side of the hotel, a hot SOS alarm was assigned to Security Officer Campos. The alarm was issued at 9:18 p.m. and was reported to be an open-door alarm at room 32129. According to records later obtained in the investigation, the deadbolt to room 32135 engaged at 9:36 p.m. 10 minutes later, the deadbolt to room 32134 was engaged. Security Officer Campos arrived on the 30th floor at 9:47 p.m. and continued to investigate each hallway and eventually took the stairwell to the 32nd floor. He wasn't able to gain entry to the hallway, however, because the door was barricaded. Campos jogged up the stairs to the 33rd floor and jumped onto the guest elevator back down to the 32nd floor, where he was able to enter. At precisely 10 p.m., Campos strode purposefully toward the 100 wing, which is where room 32129 was located. He approached the room, tensions high and expecting something. Yet, when he entered the room, Campos found it was clear. Relieved and walking a little lighter, he returned to the foyer area of the stairwell and immediately noticed an L bracket that was screwed into the door and the frame, effectively locking the door shut to the stairwell. It was why he wasn't able to enter when he was previously passing through. Stumped and curious, Campos used a house phone that was affixed to the wall in the foyer and called the security room to report his findings.
When I noticed the metal L bracket that was secured, that held the door secured, I didn't know what was going on, just simply because that's not normal. I had to call our security dispatch. I was transferred to engineering dispatch.
At 10:05 p.m., the entire city of Las Vegas would never be quite the same as it was only a minute earlier. Eric opened fire into the Village area, shooting into a massive open concert area at thousands of people.
Behind the stand. Let's go get Relax. Hey. Don't push. Don't push. Don't push.
The initial shots were so abrupt and unexpected that most people didn't comprehend what was even happening. One moment, everyone was singing and dancing with abandon and joy. The next, they were running in fear and panic, or dropping where they stood.
What is it? I don't know. I know, but I have to stand up. You don't understand.
We're going to get trampled if we don't go.
We're going to get trampled if we don't go. Let's go. We're going to get trampled. Oh my God.
It's fireworks. It's fireworks. Stop. It's fireworks. Guys. There's people laying where? There's people laying there.
Inside the hotel, security guard Campos heard what he would later describe as rapid drilling noises. Eric fired nearly 100 rounds into the Las Vegas Village area, and he also fired into the hallway, out where Campos was frantically trying to secure the area, while having no idea what sort of evil lurked behind the doors of rooms 32-134 and 32-135. Campos was struck by a bullet, and he immediately took cover in the alcove between 32-122 and 32-124, while simultaneously attempting to radio to dispatch that shots were being fired in room 32-135.
I was struck, and I went to get cover. I had to take a moment to realize what was going on, lift up my pant leg, and I saw the blood coming down. There's about a 2 feet indent. It's enough to lean back and stay back.
Campos's left calf gushed blood, as the brave security guard did his very best to manage an out-of-control situation. Within 1 minute, Eric fired about 289 rounds into the village area. At 10:08 p.m., Eric shot a massive, round-fueled tank that was situated behind McCarran International Airport. Though he managed to strike the tank twice, 6 of the shots missed and didn't create a bomb-like explosion, which was presumably his intent. Inside his rooms, Eric continued to shoot, blasting over 195 rounds into the village area.
16910 means we got shots fired. 415 ASF. Route 91 sounded like an automatic firearm.
Copy, code red at 169 Sam, you have shots.
179 Sam is coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway up. I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay. Halfway up.
Control 361 IC. We have multiple 415A breaks. Give me a surge.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the whereabouts.
Shots fired from Mandalay Bay. There's many people down. Stage left. Just be advised.
790 arrived. I'm going to form a strike team. Mandalay Bay and the Boulevard. I need 5 officers on me.
Control 020.
020, go ahead.
It is set on the suspect's door. I need everybody in that hallway to be aware of it and get back. We need to pop this and see if we get any type of response from this guy to see if he's in here or if he's actually moved out somewhere else.
Copy. All units on the 32nd floor. SWAT has explosive breach. Everyone in the hallway needs to move back. All units move back.
Breach. They need the radio. We are clearing this room. We have one suspect.
We need the air clear for Zebra 20. They have one suspect down inside the room. Zebra 20 has one suspect down inside the room.
Can you confirm location of suspect down, please?
Zebra 20 is saying there's one down inside the room.
Inside the what?
Inside the room at Mandalay Bay.
7 Victor, there's one down, 32nd floor, Mandalay Bay.
Is that room 135?
That's affirmative. One suspect down in 135, floor 32, Mandalay Bay. I have the floor.
Copy.
Control 316, can you confirm that room number for me, please?
135, 32nd floor, Mandalay Bay.
Suite 13532, is that correct?
32nd floor, room 135.
At 10:11 p.m., Las Vegas police officers, along with armed security guards, began their march towards the 32nd floor. By 10:17 p.m., the collective police force made entry onto the 32nd floor by the guest elevators. They didn't immediately hear gunfire, and a heat detection indicator that was located inside of room 32-135 showed no reading. Officers got into position and waited for the SWAT team to arrive. The strike team entered the 32nd floor at 10:56, and by 10:57, law enforcement were able to penetrate the L-bracket barricade. In front of the door to room 32-124 was the service cart, along with a smorgasbord of random items, situated to prevent or at least halt entry into the room. Officers noticed right away that there were wires leading from the service cart In an abundance of caution, they called in the bomb squad, thinking this could be an IED. It turned out that the wire simply led to a camera. Eric had full-scale surveillance installed, including a camera in the peephole of the door leading to room 32135, which is how he was aware when security guard Campos had approached the room. There was also a live feed camera located inside of room 32124. At 11:20 p.m., law enforcement conducted an explosive breach into room 32135 and declared Eric deceased from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head.
We just shut down. We got to take up to the 29th. Perfect. Then we can take this up.
590K, 431 is clear. We're moving up to 32 with the other team. Breach up.
Let her know we're doing another breach. Another breach. Another breach. I see a guy switching guns, not reloading. Switching guns, we're not reloading.
I got one wallet.
Is there a note? Did he write something on that?
Rooms 32134 and 32135 were swept and declared safe. The entire shooting lasted a mere 10 minutes. Yet its impact reverberated throughout the world and deeply traumatized thousands. While Jason Aldean was performing, Las Vegas Metro Police Department officers that were working inside of the village area described hearing fireworks going off. It took a beat before they realized that there weren't beautiful colors lighting up the sky, but rather they were under attack. They jumped into action, working to determine precisely where the threat was coming from. Detective Balanek, who was patrolling Mandalay Drive, thought the gunshots were coming from inside of the village area. He snatched up his binoculars and started scanning the towers of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. About 3/4 of the way up the tower, he noticed the silhouette of a man crouched in the shooting position, a few feet away from the window. The detective radioed Central Dispatch, providing the location of the shooter at the exact same moment that security guard Campos was entering the 32nd floor of the hotel.
179 Agent coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway up. I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay. Halfway up.
During the shooting, a SWAT sniper team was deployed in an LVMPD's chopper, hoping to encounter and stop the shooter. However, it was too difficult for the chopper to get close enough to Mandalay Bay Tower to make contact. Meanwhile, law enforcement officials inside of the Las Vegas Village area had already jumped into action, rendering first aid to the injured and coordinating with off-duty medical professionals who were in attendance at the concert. Police directed people to the exits and places to take cover, forcing crowds to head east and north as soon as they realized that the gunshots came from the direction of Mandalay Bay. Other reports of active shooters on Las Vegas Boulevard were reported, though each was investigated and cleared, as it was believed that these reports were actually from the Mandalay Bay Route 91 Harvest Fest shooting. Police thought that people were likely hearing the echoes of the gun blasts. Eric shot with complete and utter abandon. His intent was to murder as many people as his massive pile of ammunition would allow. The Las Vegas Convention Center was rapidly established as a family assistance center. The shooting scene was the horrifically chaotic, bloody mess you would expect. The number of personal items left behind was astonishing. Cowboy hats, boots, banners, lawn chairs, and other miscellaneous items were strewn about. Food booths that had been operating all weekend were left abandoned, some with propane tanks still lit and food burning on the grills. The hundreds of vendors that sold apparel, trinkets, hats, and other memorabilia fled their booths, leaving cash registers and money boxes behind. Cash blew in the wind, and the air smelled like gun smoke, grilled food, fear, and blood. There was so much blood. Securing the scene proved to be its own unique challenge. The scene, such as it was, covered a massive area, and petrified concertgoers fled in every direction. Barriers were obliterated as people escaped, and gates were broken and swung wildly, unsecured. It was necessary in the moment for survival, but in the aftermath, it allowed attendees, vendors, and onlookers to re-enter and exit the village without approval from law enforcement. Shooting victims were rushed to 14 different hospitals, all located within 22 miles of the concert venue. There was an ambulance shortage due to the mass carnage, so the injured were transported in patrol vehicles, and in some instances, random passers-by stopped and collected people who were shot or even just stunned and rushed them to local hospitals. An entire city came together without a thought, except one: save each person that could possibly be saved. Inside of Eric's hotel rooms, police found multiple suitcases, most of which contained magazines loaded with bullets. Eric's ID, cell phone, room keys, and player's cards for both himself and his girlfriend Ellen were found inside of the room. His vehicle was located and searched, with police locating 2-pound containers of exploding targets, 20 in total, along with 10 1-pound containers of exploding targets, and 22-pound bags of explosive precursors. Also inside of the rooms, police found 1,057 shell casings, 24 firearms, including 14 .223 caliber AR-15 style rifles, 8 .308 caliber AR-15 style rifles, a .308 caliber bolt-action rifle, and a .38 caliber revolver. 14 of the 24 guns were used in the massacre. In addition to the weapons, the following items were collected, among other pieces of evidence: a blue hat, a black glove, a black holster, binoculars, a brown wallet, a tape roll, 2 cell phones, one of which had both the front and back cameras covered with tape, credit cards, and a notepad with the words "unplug phones" written on it. Police investigated nearly 2,000 leads in connection with the shooting and collected 252,000 images and 22,000 hours of video as part of the investigation. The motive for the shootings is still unclear. According to the report titled "Key Findings of the Behavioral Analysis Unit's Las Vegas Review Panel," there was no evidence that the shooting was racially, ideologically, or politically motivated. The shooter left nothing to indicate why he committed such an atrocity. There was no manifesto, no suicide note, or any other communication left behind, on purpose or by accident. Investigators suggested that the shooter suffered a severe decline in his mental and physical health, as well as his cognitive functioning. His financial situation seemed to be suffering, despite the offshore wire transfers made just before the shooting. Ultimately, the report indicated that the shooter desired to die by suicide, and that was exacerbated by the fact that he sought the infamy brought by being known as a mass shooter or mass killer. The report concluded that the shooter possessed the ability to commit a substantial amount of time and attention to specific hobbies or projects of interest. In other words, when he decided to commit a mass shooting, this individual threw his entire being into the meticulous planning and execution of said attack. There was no evidence that the shooter had a negative encounter at Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino or the Route 91 Harvest Festival. He wasn't known to hate country music or anyone or anything associated with the shooting. It is not only the deadliest mass shooting in America, but it is perhaps the most random yet intentional attack that we have covered. Thank you for listening to part 1 of our coverage of the Las Vegas Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting. We will be back soon with part 2, covering the victims and the shooter's background. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Active Shooter, the podcast. Remember, if you see something, say something. There's no telling how many lives you may be saving. A big thank you to Darren Curtis, who composed some of the songs on our show. You can find him online at www.darrencurtismusic.com. Make sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Active Shooter, the podcast, and on Twitter at Podcast Active. Thank you, and be safe.